In this crazy world, it's so hard to unwind. So I'm taking time just for me. Gonna find my peace, let my soul be free. In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to another Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so thankful and grateful that you've made space to be here with us today. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I need for everybody to do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibe, go ahead and show us some love. You can do so by tapping the screen, liking, commenting, but most importantly, I need you to share this out with someone who could use a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here, or you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also want to personally invite you to check out our digital home at the selfcareclub.org, where you will find everything you need from affirmative apparel to motivational merch, as well as a ton of free resources to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to just breathe, right? To make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly, to make space for you. And remember, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop a green heart in the chat. That is our community's way of saying, I am healing, I am growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. All right, y'all. So it is Wednesday. And on Wednesday, we like to deliver a word, right? A word on Wednesday, or just our word of the week. And so this week is going to be no different. And I wanted to make sure that I carried over from our conversation yesterday where we talked about trust, right? And there is nothing, I don't know. It's just something about the word trust, because a lot of times we think about trusting other people, right? But trusting yourself, that can be a struggle for many of us, because right in the middle of trust is you, right? Is what we talked about yesterday. And if we're being honest, that conversation probably hit a nerve or two, right? We're just going to keep it real. It struck a little nerve, but it's one thing to say that I trust myself, and another thing to actually live like you do, right? To listen when your spirit speaks, to move when something feels off, or to stop second guessing what you already feel deep down inside. But again, that was yesterday. And today we're going to take it a step deeper, because you can't build real self-trust if you're not willing to face the truth. And that's the part that people want to skip, right? We want the confidence, we want the clarity, we want the peace, but we don't always want the truth that comes with it, because truth will challenge you. Truth will confront you. Truth will expose the places where you've been settling or shrinking or just straight up lying to yourself just to maintain comfort. And so that's where today's word of the week comes in. Our word is Aletheia. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat for you guys so we can pin it. Aletheia. Aletheia. There we go. Let me pin that comment for you there. Oh, yes. So our word of the week is Aletheia. And it comes from Greek philosophy, because I'm going to give you the background of it, right? So it comes from Greek philosophy. And it's often, it was explored by thinkers like Martin Heidegger, right? And it doesn't just mean truth in like the surface level way, right? Aletheia means unconcealed truth. Unconcealed truth, revealed truth, right? The act of bringing something hidden into light. And so this is not the version of truth that you tell other people, not the version that sounds good out loud, but the one that sits with you in the quiet moments, the one that taps you on the shoulder when something isn't right, the truth that you keep trying to ignore because you already know what it's going to require from you. In other words, it's not about learning something new. It's about finally seeing what's been right in front of you the entire time. And I'm talking about that relationship that you keep trying to make it make sense, that pattern that you keep repeating, that feeling that you keep brushing off, or the version of yourself that you've outgrown but you keep trying to shrink back into. Yeah, that's Aletheia knocking. Okay? And here's the real part. A lot of us aren't confused. We're in denial. We don't lack clarity. We lack the willingness to accept what clarity is showing us. Because once you see it clearly, now you have to decide, am I going to honor this truth? Or am I going to keep betraying myself for the sake of comfort? Because some of us keep asking for clarity. We keep asking for signs. We keep asking for confirmation. But the truth is, it's already been revealed. And, the way that they showed up, or in the way that you left, in the way that your energy shifted, or even in the way that you had to keep explaining away what didn't sit right with your spirit. We just haven't been ready to accept it. So today we're unpacking the truth, the uncomfortable truth, the inconvenient truth, the truth that doesn't care about your timeline or your attachments, the truth that requires you to move differently once you see it. Because once it's revealed, you don't get to pretend like you don't know anymore. So let's just jump right into it, right? I think, starting just admitting that you already know, you just don't want to admit it. Like that's half the battle, right? Just being honest with yourself. But I think that that's also the place where, people get stuck. But I know firsthand that that's also the spot where everything shifts. And so when you think about Aletheia, it's not about discovering something brand new. It's about acknowledging what's already been shown to you. And if you're real with yourself, there's at least one area in your life right now where you already know the truth. You just haven't said it out loud yet. Those feelings that you keep brushing off, the tightness that you feel in your chest when something doesn't sit right, the moment when your energy shifts and you can't quite explain why, that's not random, right? That's not you being too sensitive or overthinking. That's your discernment trying to get your attention. But here's what we do. We override it. We talk ourselves out of it. We minimize it. We rationalize it. We start to build cases for people who aren't even defending themselves. Well, maybe they didn't mean it like that. Or, maybe I'm just triggered. Maybe I need a little, more patience. Maybe I need to be a little more understanding. And listen, there is a difference between being emotionally aware and being in denial. Because emotional awareness says, I'm going to check in with myself and understand what I'm feeling right now. Denial says, I'm going to explain this away so I do not have to deal with it because ain't nobody got time for that today. Right? Exactly, pretty girl. Exactly. And listen, a lot of us have mastered denial. Like we got our degrees, we know it all. Because we know that the truth will require us to do something different. And a lot of times, who wants to do that, right? We comfortable. And this is the part that makes it uncomfortable. But once you admit it, that this relationship is unhealthy, that this space doesn't align with who I'm becoming, or that, this situation is draining me more than it's growing me. See, that's when you're being accountable. Now, you can keep showing up the same way, but it's not going to serve you. Because see, once you know better, you can't keep pretending that it's okay. And let's be honest, some of y'all don't want the truth. Y'all want permission to stay the same. You want reassurance that it's okay to keep tolerating what you've been tolerating. You want somebody to tell you, nah, it's not that bad. But deep down, you know. You knew the first time that it happened. You knew when that pattern repeated. You knew when your peace started leaving the room before you did. You just weren't ready to accept what the truth was asking you. Hey, Lauren, welcome in. Elevated awakenings to you. And listen, you guys, the truth doesn't just reveal, the truth requires. It requires boundaries. It requires distance. It requires growth. Universal culture, welcome in. There's, it also requires letting go of versions of yourself that kept you comfortable but not fulfilled. Right? And that's where the resistance comes in. Because now, all of a sudden, it's not about what they've done or what they're doing to you. It's about what you're going to do with what you know now. And that's the shift that Aletheia brings. It puts the mirror back on you. Right? It's not to shame you, but it's to wake you up. To say, you're not crazy. You're not confused. You're not missing anything. You've just been seeing it. You've been feeling it. You've been knowing. You just haven't been ready to admit it yet. So let me ask you this. And I want you to really sit with this and be honest, because we can't have a conversation about truth if we're not willing to be honest. I want to know, or I want you to ask yourself, where in your life have you been playing like you don't know, when in reality, you know exactly what it is? And more importantly, what is it costing you to keep pretending that you don't? And let's just go there, because this is, I think, the part of the conversation where things are going to get real. Some of y'all are not lacking clarity. You're drowning in it. You've gotten signs. You've seen patterns. You've felt the shift in your spirit. And you're still like, God, if this isn't for me, show me a sign. Respectfully, how many signs do you need? Because at this point, it's not confusion, it's avoidance. Let's just call it what it is, right? You're not waiting for confirmation. You're waiting on a version of the truth that feels better to you. You're hoping that the answer will, change if you just give it a little more time. Ra, welcome in. Thank you so much. You're hoping that they're going to change. You're hoping that the situation will just poof, magically align without you having to make the hard decision. And that part right there is where many of us get stuck, because signs don't always come wrapped in peace and clarity. Sometimes they come as disrespect that you simply cannot ignore anymore. Patterns that repeat a little too consistently. That uneasy feeling you keep trying to pray away instead of listening to. Yeah. Doors closing that you keep trying to reopen. And instead of just receiving it, right? We start negotiating with it. Telling ourselves, maybe I need to be a little too patient. Or a little more patient. Maybe this is just a test. God is testing me. Maybe I'm supposed to fight for this. And listen, everything is not a test. I don't know Who told you that? But everything is not a test. Everything is not meant to be fought for. Thank you so much. Some things are meant to be released, but we don't like that answer, right? So we keep asking for signs, hoping that we'll get a different response. And the truth is, sometimes asking for more signs is just a nicer way of saying, I heard you. It's like, I heard you, God. I just don't want to obey. Because obedience isn't always loud or dramatic, right? Sometimes it looks like walking away quietly, saying no without over-explaining, choosing yourself without guilt, or not going back, right? Not circling back to what feels familiar. But in all honesty, I mean, that can be hard to do, especially when you've invested time and energy and love, or even your identity into something. Because now you're not just letting go of that situation, you're letting go of the story that you told yourself about it. The potential, the what could have been, the version of them that you believed in. And see, that's where attachment shows up. Because, truth will break illusions, but attachment will try to rebuild them. It'll have you replaying memories like, oh, it wasn't always like this, right? We've had some good times. I just need to give it a little more time. Meanwhile, the patterns haven't changed, the energy hasn't shifted, and your peace is still being disrupted. But you're still trying to ask for a sign. But the hard truth is, every single time that you ignore what you've already been shown, you train yourself not to trust your own discernment. And that's what we talked about yesterday, right? When you start doubting yourself, second guessing your intuition, questioning your instincts. And now we're right back to, like I said, what we talked about yesterday, that self-trust, wasted wellness, elevated awakenings, welcome in. You can't say that you trust yourself and then keep ignoring yourself when it matters the most. Because trust isn't built on big moments, it's built on the quiet ones, right? When something feels off and you honor it. When something doesn't align, so you graciously decline and don't force it. When the answer is uncomfortable and you still choose truth over attachment. So let me ask you something. What signs have you been asking for that you've already received? And if you're honest, are you really waiting on clarity, or are you just waiting for the courage to act on what you already know? Because see, comfort will have you lying to yourself, right? Comfort is dangerous. Not because comfort itself is bad, but because misplaced comfort will keep you bound to things that are breaking you. I want to say that again. Not all comfort is bad. All right? We want to feel comfortable. What's up, Kojo? Welcome in, bro. We want to be comfortable. However, misplaced comfort will keep you bound to things that are breaking you. And the wild part, it won't even feel like a trap at first. It'll feel familiar. It'll feel manageable. It'll feel like I could deal with this. And see, then you just start adjusting yourself to fit it. You start shrinking in spaces that require you to expand. You'll start tolerating behavior that goes against your standards. You'll start normalizing things that your spirit never agreed with. And slowly, without even realizing it, you'll start lying to yourself just to stay comfortable. You'll tell yourself it's not that serious. At least it's not as bad as it used to be. Or I've been through worse. And while you're saying all of that, your peace is declining. Your energy is draining. Your clarity is now clouded. But many times we stay, right? We stay because comfort says, at least you know what this is, right? Even if what isn't good for you. And that's the trap. Elevated Awakenings, Victoria, welcome back. Right? That's the trap. Because stepping into the truth requires uncertainty. It requires you stepping into the unknown. It requires you to leave what's familiar, to walk away from what you've already invested in, to trust yourself in spaces that you've yet to experience. And that's scary. So instead of choosing truth, we negotiate with discomfort. We try to make misalignment work for us. We try to force connections where there's inconsistency. We try to maintain situations that clarity don't have the capacity to hold, right? Because clearly, when we know that this is not for us and we still try to hold on to it, but we can't keep up. We can't hold it. And we like to call that patience, right? We call it loyalty. We call it love. But if we're being real, some of that is fear, right? The fear of starting over, the fear of being alone, the fear of being wrong, the fear of letting go and not knowing what comes next. So we choose what's familiar, even if it's dysfunctional. And here's the part that's going to be a little bit different. Comfort will have you betraying yourself quietly. Not in like loud, dramatic ways, but in small decisions, right? Yeah, a lot of it is fear. And it's those small decisions where you're saying yes when you really mean no. Staying silent when you need to speak up. Showing up halfway because you're emotionally exhausted, but I said I was going to be there, so here I am, right? Ignoring your needs just to keep the peace. And over time, those small betrayals add up, right? You're right. Eventually, you lose. You lose you. You're right. One day you just wake up and you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You're tired, you're disconnected, you're going through the motions, and you can't even really pinpoint when it started because it didn't happen all at once, right? It happened every time you chose comfort over truth. But Aletheia doesn't let you hide in that. It pulls the curtain back and says, this right here, this is not aligned. And now you have a choice, right? Because once it's revealed, you can't pretend that, you don't know anymore. You can't pretend that you didn't see it. You can either keep lying to yourself to maintain comfort, or you can tell yourself the truth, right? And you can start making decisions that actually honor who you're becoming. And I'm not saying that it's easy. Never once have I sat here and told you that healing is easy, because it is not. Choosing truth will stretch you. It will disrupt you. It will require you to move through life differently. But most importantly, it's going to free you. Because real peace doesn't come from comfort. It comes from alignment. So let me ask you, where have you been settling for comfort knowing that it's costing you your peace? And if you're honest, how much longer are you willing to keep paying that price? And truth does not care about your timeline, right? Because I don't feel like we can have this conversation without talking about timing. Because a lot of us think that we can control when we're ready for the truth. We say things like, I need a little more time. Or we say, I'm not ready to deal with this right now, maybe later. Let me get through this season first, right? And on the surface, that sounds responsible. It sounds like you're pacing yourself. But if we're being real, sometimes the I'm not ready is just a softer way of saying I don't want to let this go yet. Right? Because truth doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It just shows up when it wants to show up. And Aletheia, it doesn't operate on your comfort schedule. It'll meet you in the middle of something that you were hoping would work. Right when you thought that things were finally setting. Right? The things that were finally settling. In seasons where you're already overwhelmed, boom, it shows up. And you're like, really, right now? Like, we gonna do this right now? And Aletheia be like, yep, girl, right now. Because truth is not concerned with convenience. It's concerned with alignment. You know, and here's what happens when we try to delay it. We don't actually pause the truth. We just prolong the misalignment. We stay longer than we're supposed to. We invest deeper into things that are already showing cracks in it. But we keep pouring, right? We keep pouring into people and situations that don't have the capacity to hold us. And then we wonder why we feel drained, irritated, emotionally exhausted, or disconnected from ourselves. It's because you're out of sync with what you already know. And your body will always tell you, right? The body keeps score. So that anxiety that you keep feeling, that's not random. That heaviness in your chest, the tension in your shoulders, the lack of peace when you're in certain spaces, that is your nervous system saying this ain't right anymore. This ain't it. But instead of listening, we push through. We override it. Yes, pretty girl. We distract ourselves. We keep ourselves busy so we don't have to sit with the truth. Because sitting with the truth means that we have to face it. And we have to face what it's asking us. Right? And the truth will just ask you, you know, the truth is going to ask you to end things that you were hoping would last. It will ask you to outgrow people that you thought would always be in your life, to walk away from environments that once felt safe, to become a version of yourself that requires more from you. And that is not always easy to accept, especially when your heart is still catching up to what your spirit already knows. But the reality is, delay doesn't make the truth disappear. It just makes the lesson louder. So, you know, what starts as like a gentle nudge turns into discomfort. What starts as discomfort turns into frustration. What starts as frustration turns into burnout. Because you're forcing yourself to function in a space that no longer fits you. And the longer you stay, the more that it costs you. And when I say it costs you, I'm talking about your peace, your clarity, your energy, your sense of self. And at some point you have to ask yourself, am I waiting for the right time, or am I just avoiding the right decision? Because there's a big difference. Waiting with intention looks like preparation. Avoidance looks like staying stuck while calling it timing. And so again, our word of the day, Aletheia, it exposes all of that, right? It shows you the truth that didn't come late, right? That it wasn't that the truth wasn't there, wasn't present for you. It's simply that you didn't want to receive it yet, right? So what truth have you been, you know, trying to delay, hoping that time would make it easier? And I mean, even taking that a step farther, has time actually helped, or has it just made things heavier? Yeah, we can't be staying stuck. We got to get up out the trap. And I always say that you can't heal what you keep pretending that you don't feel. But I'll also say you can't heal what you keep denying. Right? And I think that this is the part that people don't like to talk about, because everybody says that they're healing, but not everybody is being honest. And see, healing without honesty, that is just survival with better language. You can light candles, play affirmations, journal every single night. You can say all the things out loud, but if you're still avoiding the truth about what actually hurt you, you're not healing. You're just managing. See, Aletheia, this kind of truth requires you to put a name on it, not to soften it, not to repackage it and rebrand it, not to make it more digestible so it doesn't feel heavy. Aletheia requires you to call it what it is. That wasn't confusing energy. It was inconsistency. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was lack of accountability. That wasn't you being too emotional. That was your feelings being dismissed. That wasn't love. That was attachment, trauma bonding, or familiarity dressed as a connection. And I know that that is hard to sit with, because once you name it, it hits differently. It becomes real. And, now you're not just dealing with what happened. You're dealing with how long you tolerated it, how long you explained it away, how long you stayed hoping that it would change. And see, this is the point where shame tries to creep in. But I'm just going to go ahead and nip that right in the bud, right? Let me stop that right there, because this isn't about beating yourself up. This is about telling yourself the truth so that you can finally set yourself free. Because denial will keep you stuck in cycles you swear you're trying to break. You'll keep attaching to the same patterns, different faces, but same energy. And you'll think, why does this keep happening to me? But the real question is, what truth am I avoiding that would change how I move going forward? Because once you're honest about what hurt you, what triggered you, what you tolerated, and what you ignored, see, now you have the power. Now you can set boundaries that actually stick. Now you can recognize patterns earlier. Now you can choose yourself differently instead of reacting from old wounds. But you can't get there if you keep telling yourself half-truths. No fear, no doubt. Welcome back, bro. And, the thing about half-truths is, it's like half-truths sound like it wasn't that bad. Or they did the best that they could. I should have known better. And while some of that may hold some truth, it's only half the truth. It's not complete. Because where's the part that said, that hurt me? Or that wasn't okay? Or I deserved better than that? See, healing, real healing, not managing, but healing requires full truth. Not just the parts that make you look understanding, but the parts that allow you to feel, to process, to release. But again, you can't heal what you keep minimizing. You can't process what you won't acknowledge. And you definitely can't grow past something that you're still pretending didn't hurt you. Aletheia pulls all of that into light. Right? Because real healing doesn't happen in denial. So we have to shine a light on it. We have to raise our awareness. Because again, healing happens in truth, in awareness, in accountability. Not just for what happened to you, but how you choose to move forward thereafter. And so today, I hope that you hear me when I say telling yourself the truth is an act of self-respect, right? It's you saying that I care about myself enough to stop pretending, that I care about my peace enough to be honest about what disrupts it, that I care about my growth enough to face what's uncomfortable. So today, let me ask you, what part of your story have you been softening instead of telling the truth about it? And you know what, if you decided today to actually tell the truth, what would it sound like? I think that it's also important to talk about what truth will cost you. I think that, when we talk about the truth, we don't always talk about this part loud enough. Everybody talks about wanting the truth, but not everybody is ready for what truth will actually cost you. Because Aletheia, that real, revealed truth comes with a price. And the price is not always small. It will cost you relationships that you thought would last forever. It will cost you access to people who can't meet the version of you that you're becoming. The comfort of familiarity, or the illusion that everything is okay. And sometimes it'll cost you the version of yourself that learned how to survive in spaces that no longer fit you. And see, that part right there, that's where it gets heavy. Because it's one thing to see the truth, and it's another thing to live like you saw the truth. Because once you know that this isn't aligned, that this doesn't feel right, or it's draining me, this is no longer who I am. See, now you have a responsibility. And it's not to them, not to the situation, but you have a responsibility to yourself. You owe it to you. And see, that's the part where people hesitate. That's the part that freezes us in our tracks, because we're like, hold on. We're so conditioned to want to do things and be all for everybody else that we forget that we have to show up for us first. And so now that responsibility is on you. The truth will put you in positions where you have to say no when you typically would have said yes. Or you have to walk away from situations that you used to be comfortable sitting in. Where you have to choose peace over connection. Where you have to disappoint other people in order to stop disappointing yourself. So choosing the truth can feel like you're being difficult, or you're selfish, or you're doing too much. But if we flip that, is it really selfish to stop abandoning yourself? Is it really too much to require respect, consistency, and alignment? Or have we just been conditioned to accept less? The truth will break that conditioning. It will show you where you've been overextending, over-explaining, over-giving, right? And once you see it, you can't keep operating the same way without feeling it. That's why some of y'all feel uncomfortable in spaces that you used to be okay in. Because now you've seen too much. Your awareness has shifted, right? Your standards have shifted. Your tolerance has shifted. And now what used to feel normal feels heavy. But growth will cost you access. We have to normalize, the fact that not everybody is going to come with you. And that's okay. Some people only knew how to relate to the version of you that didn't have boundaries. The version that tolerated more. The version of you that kept the peace even at his or her own expense, right? And so when you change, that relationship or those relationships change too. Sometimes it deepens, but sometimes it ends. abruptly, right? They're just not interested anymore. And that's not always easy to grieve, because now not only are we processing our feelings, but now we're in mourning. We're mourning what was, what you hoped it would be, and what you now know that it can't become. But hear me when I say that what you lose is an illusion, right? What you lose in illusion, you gain in alignment. What you lose in confusion, you gain in clarity. What you lose in people pleasing, you gain in self-respect. And that trade is worth it, right? Even when it hurts, even when it feels lonely at first, even when you question if you've made the right decision, it's worth it. Because peace will always confirm what the truth revealed. It may not feel good immediately, but it will feel right. So again, what truth or truths, right, have you been avoiding because you already know what it's going to cost you? Are you holding on to something because it's right, or are you holding on because you're not ready to let go of what it used to be? Understand that self-trust is built through truth. It's a goddess vibe. Welcome in. Right? Let's just go ahead and bring this back to you, because I think that this is where everything connects. Yesterday, we talked about trust. And a lot of people say, I just need to trust myself more. But let's be honest. It's hard to trust yourself when you keep ignoring yourself. Self-trust isn't something you wake up with one day, right? It's not a personality trait. It's not something that you fake until you feel. Self-trust is built. And it's built in the moments where you listen when something feels off, where you honor what you feel instead of dismissing it, where you make decisions that align with your truth even when it's uncomfortable. Every time your intuition speaks and you override it, you create a disconnect within yourself. Every time you say, I knew better, that's the moment where your inner voice showed up and you didn't honor it. And so over time, that adds up. Exactly. That alone is trauma. Exactly. Because now you start second guessing yourself. You start looking for, outside of yourself for the answers. You start needing a validation, external validation, before you can make a move. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself not to listen to you. And so now you're trying to rebuild trust with someone who keeps promising, keeps breaking promises to you. And that person is you, right? It's nobody else. And self-betrayal doesn't always look loud. Sometimes, like I said before, it looks like staying when you know you need to leave. Entertaining conversations that you know aren't going anywhere. Ignoring boundaries that you said you set. Talking yourself out of what you feel just to keep something intact. And every time you do that, you're telling yourself that my voice doesn't matter, that my feelings aren't valid, what I know isn't enough. And so, of course, it's hard to trust yourself after all of that. But here's the shift that Aletheia brings. Aletheia says, start telling yourself the truth and move like you believe it. Because self-trust is built through consistency, not perfection, consistency. And I'm talking about consistency in listening, in honoring, in acting, even in the small ways. Like saying no and meaning no. Not over-explaining your boundaries. Leaving conversations that feel draining. choosing rest when your body is asking for it, right? Those small decisions, they help to rebuild your relationship with yourself. And over time, things shift. Over time, you stop needing as much validation, right? From external sources. You stop questioning every move. You stop feeling confused all the time because now you're anchored in the truth, right? And let's be clear, self-trust doesn't mean that you'll never make a mistake. It means that you'll trust yourself to recognize it, to learn from it, and to choose differently moving forward without abandoning yourself in the process. Because that's power. That's confidence. Not that loud, performative type of energy, but grounded. And see, once you get there, you move differently. Your confidence comes back. You don't ignore red flags hoping they'll turn green. You don't force connections that don't feel natural. You don't stay in spaces that require you to shrink. Because now you just trust what you feel, right? You trust what you see. And more importantly, you trust yourself enough to act accordingly. Truth is freedom, even when it hurts first. Truth is freedom, even when it hurts first. See, here's the part that people don't tell you about truth. It will hurt before it sets you free. And that's the part that I think that a lot of people run from. We love the idea of peace. We love the idea of freedom and alignment, but we don't always like the process that it takes to get there. Because Aletheia, that kind of truth, doesn't just gently tap you on your shoulder. Aletheia strips everything away. It removes the illusions, the excuses, and the version of the story that you told yourself to make it make sense. And see, when that happens, it feels like a loss of what you thought this was, that a loss of what you hoped that it would become, a loss of the version of yourself that believed in something that didn't fully exist. And that hurts. Let's not pretend that it doesn't. That hurts. Some of us are grieving things that never even had a real foundation, just potential, possibility, and your willingness to make it work. Thank you for the confirmation, sis. I appreciate that. I'll be liking to know that this plane is landing accordingly. But, while we're holding on to that potential, that possibility, right? Truth comes in and says, this ain't what you thought it was. And now you got to sit with that, right? But that pain that you feel, it's not there to break you. It's there to separate you from what was never aligned, right? It's there to raise awareness, because staying in something that isn't for you, that's a slow kind of suffering, right? That's the kind of suffering that quietly drains you, that chips away at your confidence, that has you questioning yourself over and over again. But truth interrupts that. It says no more pretending, no more settling, no more shrinking just to make this work. And yeah, in the moment, that hurts. But what comes after that is freedom. Freedom from confusion. Freedom from overthinking. Freedom from constantly trying to figure out where you stand. Because now you know, right? And clarity, even when it's painful, is peaceful. Because now you're not going back and forth in your mind. You're not replaying conversations trying to decode the meaning. You're not exhausting yourself trying to hold something together because truth has simplified it. It made it clear. And clarity will always feel lighter than confusion, even if it stings at first. So I want you to understand that freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of alignment. You can still feel the loss and still be walking in the right direction. You can still miss what was and still know that that's not where you're supposed to be anymore. That is maturity. It is growth. That's about choosing yourself without needing everything to feel good first. Because truth doesn't always feel good, but it is always right? It always feels right. And once you start choosing what feels right over what feels familiar, that's when your life actually starts to change. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop settling for less than you require. You stop chasing things that don't choose you, because now you're operating from clarity, from alignment, from truth. Aletheia. And listen, before we close out today, I just want to say that you're not losing when truth reveals something to you. You're just being redirected. You're being protected. You're being realigned with what actually honors you. So ask yourself, what truth have you been avoiding because you're afraid of the pain that comes with accepting it? And if you're honest, is the pain of facing it really greater than the pain of staying where you know you don't belong? Elevated Awakening, Z. So again, let me bring this home as we close things out today. Yesterday we talked about trust, and we said right in the middle of trust is you. But today we told the truth about why that's been hard. Because you can't trust yourself if you keep ignoring yourself. You can't build confidence if you keep second guessing what you already know. And you definitely can't walk in alignment if you keep choosing comfort over truth. Our word for this week is Aletheia. And Aletheia simply means unconcealed truth, revealed truth. The moment where what's been hidden is no longer hidden. And so after today, let's be clear. Some of y'all are not confused anymore. You might still be processing. You might still be feeling it. You might still be working up the courage, but you're not confused. Because something in this conversation just confirmed what you've already been feeling about that situation, about that person, about that pattern, about that version of yourself that you've outgrown. And so now the question isn't, do I know the truth? The question is, what am I going to do with it? Because truth is not just something that you hear, it is something that you honor. And honoring it looks like setting the boundary that you've been avoiding, having the conversation that you've been putting off, walking away from what you know isn't aligned, choosing yourself even when it feels unfamiliar. And I'm not going to lie to y'all, that takes courage. The kind of courage that says, I'm done betraying myself. I'm done ignoring what I feel. I'm done asking for signs that I've already received. Because that's where your power is. So here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to just listen to today's episode and move on. I want you to sit with it. I encourage you to journal on it. I want you to ask yourself, what truth has been revealed to me? Where have I been choosing comfort over alignment? What is one decision that I can make this week that honors what I know? Just one. Because change doesn't start with everything. Change starts with one honest decision. And if this episode spoke to you, if something in your spirit said, yeah, she talking to me, I want you to drop a green heart in the chat. Y'all know that that's our way of saying, I'm choosing me. I'm showing up for me, right? Today it means I'm choosing truth. So go ahead and put those green hearts in the chat. And listen, if you're ready to go deeper, if you need a space where you can process and reflect and grow without feeling like you have to have it all figured out, pull up on us at the selfcareclub.org. Tasha Lee, thank you for the green heart. Right? Visit the selfcareclub.org. Tap into the free resources that are available. Join the Room to Breathe Project community. It's powered by school. It is a free community open to everyone. You can access it directly from the website, or you can visit the link in my bio. Because I honestly believe that community is where the work continues, right? That's where you don't have to go through this alone. It's where healing happens in community, not in isolation. Because listen, I know that facing the truth can feel heavy, but carrying a lie will always be heavier. So give yourself permission today to see clearly, to feel honestly, and to move differently going forward. One breath, one decision, one truth at a time. Now, as always, I'm here to remind you guys to keep breathing through the clarity, through the discomfort, through every shift that's bringing you closer to who you were meant to be. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels out of reach. And know that here at the Self-Care Club and in the Room to Breathe community, that you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't you be afraid to take up space, to speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life, and I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you.